Gurudatta. Sri Akkalkot Maharaj Charitra, Chapter 8. Swami, the Protector. The grace of the Master never recognized the difference of class, caste, and community. A sadhu was seriously ill. He was aware that he would not live long. He had a strong wish to visit the shrine of Lord Krishna at Dwarka before death overtook him. But it seemed that his illness would not permit him to do so. Once he heard of Swami Samarth and came to Akkalkot to see him. The Swami called him near and assured him that his wish would be fulfilled. Even as he thought that the Swami might be the incarnation of Lord Dattatreya passed through the sadhu's mind, the master said to him, "Why bother about who I am? Go and chew the leaves of that margosa tree." The sadhu plucked a few of them and chewed and found them very bitter. On seeing his wry face, the Swami burst into a loud laughter and again directed him to chew a few of the leaves plucked from another branch of the same tree. When he did so, the sadhu was surprised to find the leaves very sweet. Hearing the sadhu and all of them found that the leaves from that branch were really sweet, the sadhu regained his health in 3 days. On the fourth day, when he came to Swami for a darshan, he did not see the master there. Instead, he saw the divine form of Lord Krishna of Dwaraka with his 4 arms. The sadhu was in raptures and he prostrated to the Swami. When he got up, he found the usual form of the Swami in front of him, smiling. As though to dispel any possible doubt in the minds of the devotees that the vision might be the hallucination of the sadhu. The golden earrings which the Swami had were found to be transformed into stone ones, for does not the stone image of Lord Krishna at Dwarka have stone earrings carved in it? As the stone earrings were too heavy for the Swami's tender earlobes, they were changed by the devotees. In 1 year, monsoon failed and there were no rains. There was fear of drought and famine in the state of Maharashtra. Countless devotees from neighboring towns and cities flocked to the Swami and sought his divine intervention. The Swami replied to their petitions, "Get the Parjanya Sukta, the hymn to the Lord of Rain in the Vedas recited by Brahmins. All of you recite Renuka Sahasranama, the 1,000 divine names of Goddess Renuka." 2 days after, the Swami, accompanied by his attendants, went to the neighboring village of Jeor, visited the shrine of Lord Shiva there, and sternly addressed the Linga in the temple, "Why did you not send rain so far?" Then he proceeded to another village named Varasang, heaped abuse on all the deities in the shrine of Shiva, and in a quiet voice asked the idols, "Do you want offerings of Chenna, Bengal gram?" Then he got large quantities of gram from the village and scattered them over the idols of Lord Shiva and his consort in the temple. In a few minutes there were thunder showers, and over a radius of 25 miles around Akkalkot, the fields were soaked with abundant water. Once, as was his wont, the Swami started on his trek to a distant village along a difficult track. There were a few of his attendants with him. They walked on 4 hours and were overtaken by hunger and thirst. They could not get anything to eat or drink on the way, nor had they the courage to complain to the Swami. At last, a young boy among them made bold to communicate his plight to the Swami. At once, the Swami took them into the shade of a huge tree. Everyone expected that he was going to feed them all, but to their utter disappointment, they found the Swami seated there, eating a little food all by himself. When he finished it, he asked all the devotees to go and rest themselves in the shade of a nearby mango tree. At first, not finding anything there to eat, they thought that their master was playing his usual pranks on them. But when they quietly approached the mango tree, they met an old lady. She told them that she was awaiting a group of people, and as they did not turn up, the devotees of the Swami were welcome to partake of the dainty dishes that were prepared for the expected party. The faithful devotees got more than what they wanted. Often the Swami took a fancy to be carried about in a palanquin amidst heavy rain. On one such occasion, the devotees carried the palanquin for 6 miles and were very tired. Then the Swami got down from it, mounted a horse which was grazing there, and started for neighboring village. The horse was too small for the Swami, and his legs were found hitting against stones. The devotees could not bear that sight, nor had they the stamina to carry him in the palanquin any further. One of them said to the Swami in utter helplessness, "If you condescend to reduce your weight, we would carry you much further." The Swami at once agreed to do so and sat in the palanquin. When they lifted it, they found that he was much lighter than before. They carried him on with a thrill of joy that the miracle had afforded them. The party halted for the night by the roadside. One of the devotees submitted to the Swami that none of them had taken any food since that morning and that they were hungry. The Swami smiled most charmingly and said, "Do not fear. One of my devotees is coming this way with lots of delicious food." Indeed, after a little while, a devotee by name Deshpande came there from Dharwad along with his family. He was on his way to Akkalkot for Swami's darshan. He was overjoyed to meet him half the way, and he fed the whole party sumptuously. A devotee from Ahmednagar took the Swami's darshan. He had a wish to give the Swami something to eat. The Swami at once noticed the secret thought and asked for porridge prepared with a dal. The devotee got it prepared by his wife and invited the Swami to partake of it. The master asked him to give it first to the Brahmins there and that he would take it later. In 2 dishes it was served for 2 Brahmins and the third was kept for the Swami. The Brahmins finished that was served to them and wanted the porridge that was in the third dish also. Finding no other way, the devotee gave it away to the Brahmins. So nothing was left for the Swami. Then the devotee and his wife approached the Swami to tell him of what had happened and to seek his pardon because they could not fulfill either their own wish or that of Swami. On seeing them, the master smiled and, feeling his own belly with his hands as though to indicate to them that it was full, he belched loudly. He at once proceeded to enumerate all the other dishes that they had served to the Brahmins. He asked them to get him whatever food was left. They had to tell him that nothing was left after feeding the Brahmins. The Swami said, "No, one bhaji is left in a corner. Get it for me." The lady went back to her lodging, and to her surprise, she did find one bhaji left in the corner of the basket. The Swami accepted it and was pleased. Feeding any hungry person implies feeding the spirit which is in all, and the Swami had identified himself with it completely. Once Swami Samarth visited the house of a devotee by name Deshmukh. When he was seated there, a Muslim from the former Nizam state visited him and requested him to teach him the path to peace. The Swami cast his yogi glance at him and said, "Akkal se kuda pehchan," realize God through discrimination. The Muslim, on hearing the words of the Master, at once attained the state of Samadhi. When he was on the verge of regaining his normal consciousness, he had a vision of the holy, prosper Muhammad. One day, a lady brought her only son who was seriously ill to the Swami. A few minutes after her arrival at Akkalkot, her son died. The grief stricken mother fell at the feet of the Swami and said, I hope that my son would have protection at least here, if not anywhere else. Is he to die even after his arrival to your august presence? The lady's lamentation softened the heart of the Swami. He at once got up and approached the dead body, and lifting it up by its foot, he whirled it round and round and threw it near a horse that was standing there. The body returned to life, and the mother's joy knew no bounds. On another occasion, a lady prayed to the Swami to bless her with children, but he replied that she was not destined to have any. Without losing hope, she stayed on and dedicated herself, heart and soul, to the service of the Master. The blessed moment arrived when one day the Swami assured her, I shall go to Satyaloka and wrangle with Brahma, the Creator, if need be, and grant you children. After a little while, he went into the house of the fetched 2 dates, dry fruits, and gave them to her to be eaten after the meal. Taking the fruits with her, she went home and placing them in a shelf, she went to take bath. Unfortunately, by the time she finished her bath, she forgot all about the dates. She thought of them only the next day and rushed to the shelf but found only 2 eggs in their place. She at once ran to the Swami and, keeping the eggs in front of him, confessed her error and sought his help. The grace of the Master never recognized the difference of class, caste, and community. When people asked him about his caste, he gave different replies at different times, thereby suggesting the unreality of such a distinction. A fisherman too was as much a recipient of Swami's grace as any other devotee. Lakshman, the fisherman, used to take the Swami's darshan every day, especially when he was to go for fishing in the sea. Once his yacht was caught in a fierce storm. When he found that the boat was going out of his control, still too far from the shore, he cried out the name of the Swami in despair. But nothing is too far for the Swami's grace. He at once responded to the call. At that moment, the Swami was engaged in a game of chess with his devotees at Cholappa's house. Suddenly, he stood up crying, Lakshman is drowning, and went on moving his limbs as though he struggled to lift up a drowning man. The devotees who were there wondered at the antics of the Swami. Soon saline water started dripping from his hands mysteriously. 8 days after, Lakshman came running to the Swami and fell at his feet, saying, If you did not save me, I would have died. Henceforth, my body is yours, not mine. I am surrendering to you my body and soul. I do not want to be in samsara any more. The Swami smiled and kept quiet. Lakshman kept his word and spent the rest of his life in the service of the Master. One day, the Master was playing among the huts of untouchables, as they were called in those days. He was playing with a bone. A poor man went to him and bowed. At once the Swami gave him the bone as prasada. The poor man stretched his hand to receive it, but he was inwardly feeling shocked at having to, to touch an unclean thing. But as soon as it touched his hand, it immediately turned into gold. Ask and thou shalt be given. As you sow, you reap. Faith never fails. In those days, plague was one of the most feared of disease, and it raged frequently in the state of Maharashtra. During one such outbreak, many people died at Akkalkot. The natives ran to the Swami for his protection. He commanded them to render all the religious services that were due to the local deities with proper care and said, And then I shall speak to her, meaning the presiding spirit of the plague. In no time the deaths ceased and the plague vanished. A Brahmin by name Gopal Rao came to Akkalkot to see the Swami. There was no one to help him with a pot or a vessel needed for taking his bath. At last he took them from the house of a low caste family. Balwant Rao, a Brahmin devotee who used to offer a pipe of tobacco to the Swami, came to know about it. He was enraged to hear that a fellow Brahmin had accepted bathing water from a low caste family. So at the time of lunch, Balwant Rao did not allow Gopal Rao to sit among other Brahmin devotees. Gopal Rao felt humiliated but kept quiet. Later, when Balwant Rao brought food to the Swami as usual, the Swami was cross with him and refused to eat from his hands. He said, "Does he lose his purity merely by the touch of a low caste man?" The Swami refused to eat from Balwantrao's hand for 2 or 3 days. On the fourth day, Balwantrao lost his sanity. Whenever his sane mood returned, he fell at the feet of the master and sought his pardon. Then the Swami commanded him to serve Gopal Rao for some time as an expiation of the sins of his past lives. Once the Swami, along with his devotees, visited the shrine of the medieval saint Ekanath. There he felt thirsty, but there was no water to drink. The only well in the vicinity was deep and for long out of use. The water was stinking. The Swami then picked up a stick which was 4 feet in length and went into the well. To the utter amazement of his devotees, touching his nose with one end of the stick, he touched the water in the well with the other end simultaneously. It was a great wonder to all how such a short stick could be used to touch the deep water in the well by the Swami. The water at once became pure and potable. With the rapid spread of Swami's fame in all directions, Akkalkot became a prominent place of pilgrimage. Long queues of devotees could be seen taking darshan of the Swami from dawn to dusk, and still some were left over. The Swami had no rest. He discovered a novel way of meeting the growing demands on him. He used to lie on the cot, covering all his body with a blanket and keeping only his feet outside to be touched by the devotees. Yet, when any of them had any doubts or impure thoughts in their mind, he would at once sit up and answer them in a fitting manner and would again doze off as suddenly. Even when the Swami strolled along the streets of Akkalkot, crowds of devotees would follow him carrying the royal insignia of this great King of Kings. They would go on chanting and singing to the accompaniment of musical instruments, with all the singing crowds about him. The Swami resembled a mighty banyan tree which is the haunt of innumerable singing birds. Jai Gurudatta.